Hello friends, I'm Leigh, and I go by the Snap Chick here on YouTube. I make videos on all things photography. Today, a lens. Sigma and some other lens manufacturers have been creating a new breed of large, wide aperture prime lenses with absolutely perfect image quality. For Sigma, these are their art lenses, which we've enjoyed very much. And recently we've shown you some of Sigma's contemporary lenses, which are smaller, arguably more fun to use, they're lower cost, while still delivering very good image quality. Today is not actually about a Sigma lens, rather a lens that does remind us of those smaller Sigma contemporary prime lenses, the Viltrox 33mm f1.4 APS-C lens for Sony cameras. There is also a Fuji X-mount version. We have tested the Sony version, but we expect that the version for Fuji cameras will produce similar results. This is the third Viltrox lens that we have used. The first, the 85mm f1.8 full-frame autofocus lens for Sony. Next, the 20mm f1.8 Z-mount lens, a manual focus lens for Nikon Z cameras. And now, this 33mm f1.4 lens. One aspect that I want to call out right away, this is an APS-C lens, primarily designed for crop sensor cameras. In the case of Sony, this means that the lens is directed at owners of the Alpha 6000 series cameras, which have a wonderfully compact form factor that fit nicely with the compact size of this lens. And since this is an APS-C lens, the field of view with this lens will approximate the field of view when using a 50mm lens on a full-frame camera. This is often considered to be a normal lens, meaning that the view of this lens is similar to the view and scale that you normally see and perceive of the world around you with your eyeballs. However, let's mention something big. Sony full-frame users may want to look closely at this review. For Sony Alpha 7R4 users like myself, APS-C on this camera still puts it in a class among the highest resolution APS-C cameras in the world. In fact, our testing of this lens was exclusive to our Alpha 7R4, which accurately treated this lens as an APS-C lens with the camera set to automatically detect the lens type. Also, the crisp, sharp images from this lens, combined with the 26 megapixel output from the Alpha 7R4 when cropped, left us feeling that this lens is not a compromise on a high-resolution full-frame Sony camera. In fact, I'm confident on a lower-resolution full-frame Sony body like the Alpha 9, that this lens would perform admirably at the Alpha 9's 10 megapixel cropped resolution. We'll put sensor size aside for now and focus on the lens itself, but I did want to mention how we tested and how we saw the APS-C crop on our Alpha 7R4 as no particular hindrance for that testing. For those with visions of using the full sensor area, as you notably can on some cropped lenses at narrower apertures, that is not the case here. You will have harsh vignetting. That's not a drawback. This lens is designed through and through for cropped sensors. What you get for the design focused on cropped sensors is a compact, nimble, autofocus lens for a low price with a super wide f1.4 aperture. What this means is that you're able to shoot in darker conditions without potentially raising your ISO sensitivity to unacceptable levels. And f1.4 gives you much latitude for creative depth of field effects and super bokeh images. A lens like this isn't designed for the shelf. It's for the field. And as soon as our sample arrived, Raymond was off and running into the Sonoran Desert of Arizona, and then we found ourselves on a quick getaway to the high desert of Arizona's Grand Canyon. Fun fact for those who have not experienced it, it gets very cold in northern Arizona in the winter, with elevations ranging from 7,000 to 12,000 feet. It was 10 degrees Fahrenheit when our Grand Canyon sunrise began. The Viltrox 33mm lens was undeterred by the frosty forest and canyon, and we just brought these gloves that heat themselves. And this is sleek, even on the full-frame Alpha 7R4. As everything usually is on this camera, using it with this lens was fast, accurate, and efficient. It's a high-tech camera designed to make your photography better and faster, and the lens kept up without problems. Opening the aperture to f1.4 in the early dawn hours brought the colors alive in the overall dim available light. And as the sun kept rising, more apertures were useful handheld. I even saw Raymond using it without a neck strap or a wrist strap, which is basically unprecedented for him. But the compactness of the setup and the ergonomics Must have been quite sufficient for him to have a rare throwing caution to the wind moment. As we were using this compact, inexpensive prime lens, using only a portion of our α7R4's sensor, I have to admit I had questions in my mind as to whether or not the images would hold up to close scrutiny. We were sure to shoot at a variety of apertures with subjects near and far, and I have to say we were pleased with the results. For walking around like tourists, which we did on this particular canyon trip, the lens was perfect. It was lightweight and it delivered the results. Other times at the canyon, we are less touristy and more long-haul hikers, and this lens would be well suited for that also, given its small size and lightweight. With the combination of a compact lens and a boutique manufacturer, we expected that the lens might have some quirks or surprises, but no weirdness here. It's easy and fun to use. Looking at the body itself, you have the requisite focus ring and then the option of using the aperture ring or setting it to A and setting aperture and other controls exclusively on the camera. The aperture ring itself glides smoothly with no clicking. However, it's damped to where it was no problem to set whatever aperture seemed best for the situation. For us, this is now one of our go-to prime lenses for our Sony camera, alongside the full-frame 24mm G Master with its f1.4 aperture being our go-to lens for wide-field landscapes and astrophotography, and then our 85mm Viltrox f1.8 prime lens, our go-to portrait lens for the Sony. 24, 50mm equivalent, and then 85mm. It's a good set of primes with some very flexible aperture ranges. We've placed some links in the description of this video to this lens and some of the other lenses and products that we have already mentioned in this video. We are Amazon affiliates, so when you use those links, even just to browse and purchase something else, the cost to you is the same and it helps keep our channel going. Finally, is this the lens for you? For a Sony APS-C shooter, this lens is something to strongly consider. With its low price, simple, sleek design, and super wide aperture, there's a lot of value here. And for a Sony full-frame shooter like me, you're in APS-C mode, getting very good results with that same compactness and sleekness and low price. The choice is yours, but my recommendation is there. Do you have experience with this new lens or other Viltrox lenses? Let me know what you think about them in the comments. We've been thrilled with ours. Or if you have questions, the lens is definitely around here on my shelf somewhere, so I'd be happy to answer any of your questions from my past or future experiences with this lens. As always, please like this video if you found it helpful or entertaining, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.